So, first up, we have Arachnophobia. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a classic, but it's probably one of the horror movies of the 1990s. A South American species of spider finds its way to California, small town California, and it somewhat decimates, the town. People try to fight the spiders back as soon as they find out about them. Most of them die, so some good stuff. I don't want to spend much time on the plot because I think it's a movie that if you haven't seen and you go into not knowing much about it, I think you're probably going to be somewhat impressed. It's been a movie I've enjoyed for years and years. It has a fantastic cast, in my opinion, fantastic cast. Decent, pretty good music. It has pretty much, in my opinion, most of what you would want out of a somewhat light-hearted insect invasion type movie. There's quite a few things about this one I sort of want to, try to get into. But before that, I will let Chucky tell us his feelings.
Yes. So Arachnophobia. That's a movie that I actually watched quite a bit when I was younger, and clearly, watched quite a bit, so I obviously enjoyed it. Then I watched it again recently, still enjoyed it quite a bit. I guess the only thing that's kind of changed now is that now I've seen, more movies, and I've seen other movies that these cast members have been in, and maybe, just maybe, that doesn't necessarily affect my enjoyment of the movie, but it just makes me think of some silly things at times. I mean, we've got Jeff Daniels in this, and he went on to do a movie like Dumb and Dumber. So, and I'm thinking of him in Dumb and Dumber, and then going back to this. It's like I said, it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the movie, but it does make it a little more difficult to take his character as seriously as it probably should. But especially since there's another character in this movie called Lloyd. So you've got Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, you've got Lloyd in this movie, equally a dumb individual.
He's an intelligent guy.
Bit of an idiot for a town sheriff, but anywho, I think in terms of spider movies, this is probably the best spider movie out there. I know there's some other ones out there, to be honest, I probably haven't watched too many of them, or at least not many of them come to mind.
Yeah, I can honestly only think of one spider movie I think might be as good as this one.
I know I've seen a few, but they're just not coming to mind, so this is probably the best spider-themed movie that I can think of. Like you said, there's a good cast in the movie, aside from Jeff Daniels as Julian Sands as John Goodman, and a few other veteran-type actors in the movie.
Plus the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, randomly.
I've probably seen that movie once when I was young, so I don't really recall which actor you're speaking
That's
of.
okay.
But
it's actually Lloyd, the sheriff.
Okay. Yeah, and there's this one old guy who I remember seeing in Total Recall, and he plays the mortician guy. The guy just won't stop eating. That's all he does in the movie. He's just eating in every scene, I think. Even leaves the party with 2 full plates of food, I think. But
he seems like a pretty nice guy, though, so...
Oh, yeah. Just loves his food. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty enjoyable movie. The spiders in the movie, whatever they did there with the effects and everything, I think they did a pretty good job. I don't really notice, if there's fake spiders. I'm sure there's some real spiders in there, but I wasn't looking around saying this one's fake, this one's real, so they must have done a pretty good job in that. It makes me think of the movie The Beyond, where, there's a scene with spiders. Some of them look real, and some of them clearly are just like bouncing off a string or something,
I'll say that's probably one of the things that Arachnophobia does best. Just the spiders look, compared to almost any other spider-based horror movie, they seem like pretty realistic for the most part. So, yeah. I always, it's like half the sci-fi movies that have spiders in them, they barely look like spiders, so I'm happy this has a somewhat realistic feel to it.
And you probably talk more about this than I would, but we can mention John Goodman's character. He doesn't have a huge role in the movie, but it does pop up, especially towards the second half of the movie. And he's got a bit of a funny, quirky type character.
Plus, it's a pretty good theme music, so.
Yeah. Yeah, like the scene where he squishes one spider and then Julian sounds like, "Did you bring one back?" And it's like, "Oh, there might be a bit of it on my shoe."
I mean, in terms of enjoyment, I think this movie is almost, I have a hard time believing somebody can watch this and not just have a little bit of fun. Like, so it's a somewhat lighter movie, but this, that scene toward the end when the spiders are swarming the house. I mean, no, I don't know about you, but I'm not necessarily big on spiders. So that scene has always been a bit more terrifying when I was a kid. And, watching it even today, I somewhat cringe a bit because those spiders look decently real, and especially when they're coming out of like the sink. That scene just freaks me out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I come from a country where spiders are quite common, so...
Yeah, I was trying not to be cliche. But...
Yeah. But I mean... Being completely honest, I'm not a fan of spiders either. I'd much rather them outside than inside. So, I mean, I'm not trembling in fear when I see a spider, but I don't want a spider near me. So, even though most of them are harmless, but it's just one of those things where you just don't want this creepy crawly all over you. I probably also wanted to just mention the stupid old man doctor in the movie. And that guy just is a bit of a annoying dick.
Yes. Although, I mean, he does have a heart of gold. He was having I think it was a seizure, and says, "Hey, we should call the new doctor." So.
Well, the funny thing about that, he spends pretty much the entire time before that ripping the guy, saying, like, this guy, medical malpractice and all this kind of stuff. And then suddenly he's having a seizure. He's like, "Oh, call him, get him over here."
Who's he going to call, the sheriff?
Yeah. I know. I mean, who else is he going to call? But at the same time, he literally just said, like, you saw this person, this old lady patient who was a patient of mine, suddenly, like, a day later, she's dead. So what do you think? Is the same going to happen to me? I guess you're not thinking about that type of thing when you're having a seizure or you're about to die, but still.
On a related note, no, I've not actually seen Dumb and Dumber, so when I think of Jeff Daniels, I don't think that. I actually think of HBO series called The Newsroom, which I sort of enjoyed. But I think Jeff Daniels' character in this movie is pretty sympathetic. I mean, he literally uproots from the city, moves to a small town with the belief that he will be the main doctor, and then boom, he's sort of screwed over by the dick who's sort of the doctor. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty sympathetic character, and I think, honestly, pretty much most actors in this movie do, in my opinion, a pretty good job. So I'm just really happy with the whole cast, especially John Goodman, who was just a really amusing character. It's not necessarily too different than many of John Goodman's other characters, but I mean, it's fun. You always enjoy having him on screen.
Well, I can recommend watching Dumb and Dumber. You'll laugh, you'll cry, it'll change your life. And actually, just while we're laughing about that, I just recall the scene in this movie where he's... I don't know if this is something... I guess they used to do this back in the 80s and maybe early 90s, but where he's doing like a NAD inspection of all these boys. I don't recall ever having to let some doctor check out my NADs like that.
Well, at least you got some good business done, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Then knocks him into one of the kids' traps that.
Do you see his face when he's looking at each one, kind of looking but trying not to look, and then he kind of moves across to the black dude and kind of just pulls a bit of a face, like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I like that one weak ass cough that one of the kids gives.
You can cough better than that. I didn't see your balls twitch.
I mean, and that's just a small scene. There's so many scenes in this movie that just enjoyable. Especially Julian Sands' final scene.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, "Hey, food's here." Spider attacks him, and he was surprised by that.
It's kind of, I guess, ironic that the guy who knows the most about spiders kind of gets attacked so easily and quickly, I guess. But anyways.
So this is a movie I've seen so many times. I saw it a bunch when I was a kid. I watched this, I think, just yesterday, and it was the first time I've seen it in like maybe 4 or 5 years or so. And I'm happy it's stored up just as well as I remember it did. So it's definitely a movie I'd recommend, and probably, like you said, one of the best spider horror movies. I mean, in my opinion, I know this is a movie from the early 2000s called Eight-Legged Freaks, which is, somewhat popular, but this, that's like really over the top. And this one, I think, has a really nice mix of some lighter moments, but also some, generally, somewhat scary moments, so I appreciate that. I also just wanted to mention, I really enjoyed the opening of the movie, 20 minutes before you even meet Jeff Daniels, which just sort of starting up with the spider comes from and how it gets to America. I think that type of startup really helped give a little more flavor to the movie. I mean, and also worth mentioning, the movie's like an hour and 50 minutes long, so it's not like one of those shorter movies that you might come across. So there's a little meat in this one, more than you might expect.
I can't say I really paid attention to the runtime, so I guess that's a good thing, because if you're looking at the runtime, you're kind of thinking, Jesus Christ, just finish already. And if you're not doing that, then I guess you're enjoying the movie.
Well, I enjoyed the movie anyway.
Oh, yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at the runtime regardless if you're enjoying it or not, but I think if in most cases where you're not enjoying a movie, you tend to look at it more.
I do remember Only God Forgives.
Oh, that's not nice.
Well, Arachnophobia is a flawless movie. There's not a thing I dislike about it. Fantastic cast, fantastic music, fantastic effects. Just fantastic. Everything's fantastic. I give it an easy 10 out of 10.
Whoa. Okay. And if John Goodman wasn't in it, your score would be lower.
Yeah, probably be like an 8 out of 10, but even so, fantastic movie. Yeah. I legitimately enjoy this one, and I definitely recommend it to people if they haven't seen it.
Well, I guess since I don't have the same John Goodman fetish that you have, I'm gonna go with an 8. I was kind of balancing between a 7 and an 8, but I think, like I said, it's probably the best spider-themed horror movie that I can think of. And I watched it a lot when I was young, and so it's one of those movies that has kind of stuck with me for quite some time. Good effects with the spiders and all. A pretty terrifying ending, I guess, for people who are not all that fond of spiders. So, there's some big juicy motherfuckers there at the end.
I sort of like how even after that spider was set on fire, it comes after him again.
Yeah. It's, actually, when that happened, it reminded me, like, my all-time favorite movie, Child's Play, how he gets burnt at the end, but he keeps coming back. And I was thinking the spider's a little bit the same. He gets supposedly killed at least a couple of times and kept coming back. Yeah.
I thought Jeff Daniels' reactions was just fantastic. Like, he's so tired of that spider.
Yeah.